everyone, and welcome back to the show that today takes two stellar acting careers and honors them by forcing competition on unsuspecting art. But given the A-list thespians that we're celebrating this afternoon, I don't think they'd shy away from a fun-spirited contest. After all, one of them tussled with MCU baddie Killmonger, only then to be unwittingly tossed into the sunken place. And the other made it from the mean streets of Baltimore all the way to piloting giant robots in the near future.
Everyone, listen up.
In case you still haven't guessed who's appearing on this episode of Versus, and you didn't look at the title of the vid before watching it, it's Daniel Kaluuya versus Idris Elba. And if this is your first time watching this show Versus, Daniel and Idris, they couldn't make it here in person today. Neither could anyone we've ever featured on the show. We're still asking though, right? We're sending emails? Keep knocking on doors in Hollywood until one opens.
You! Shut up!
Well, if you are Kaluuya or Elba, now it's Tinseltown that's banging down your doors because every time a project gets announced, there's a good chance one of these dudes is getting a phone call. But only one will emerge victorious on this program, which is why folks just love watching it. There's a winner, and there's another winner today. I can't call either one a loser. In one corner, you have Idris Elba, a guy who starred in epic TV shows like The Wire and in big-time films like those MCU talkies.
Sorry about that.
In the other corner, it's Daniel Kaluuya, who starred in groundbreaking movies like Get Out and has also appeared on the small screen in revolutionary programs like Black Mirror. We'll toast the legacy of both accomplished performers throughout the show. Then it will be my thankless task to crown one a victor. But I still like you both, I promise. Here's how we'll determine a winner. Round 1, box office. Round 2, tomato meter/audience score. Round 3, iconic moments. Round 4, Tuxedos. And then we'll do a wildcard round that could be a challenge pertaining to acting range, characters, voiceover work. Did you know that both Daniel Kaluuya and Idris Elba have appeared as voices in animated fare?
Shut your tiny mouth now!
Even when they're not on screen, they're still raking in hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, they don't get to keep all that bread, but they probably get points on the back end. I don't know how movies work from a payroll standpoint. I'm just happy that I get to show up to this studio. My key still works, and the fast food coupons they pay me with aren't yet expired.
You did this by the book, right?
Come on, of course.
Low expectations, kids. It really comes in handy later in life. Unless your name is Daniel and or Idris, then you can shoot for the moon because you're already stars. Man, I'm really good. Solid? Good enough? I'm not the worst. I'll take it. And now we'll see how great Kaluuya and Elba are because it's just about that time where I say, let's get it on.
All personnel, this is the captain. Brace for entry.
Round 1, box office. Highly trained actors are the subjects today, and all that practice and classes and study is great, but if no one sees your movie, did it ever happen at all?
Hell no.
That's not going to be an issue for Idris Elba because he's been in the biz for a couple decades, and Daniel Kaluuya, though considerably younger than Idris, is off to a hot start thanks to a landmark thriller directed by Jordan Peele. Get Out was an instant smash when it dropped back in 2017. The film would go on to total $252 million worldwide, which sounds all-encompassing until you remember that both he and Elba have also participated in the Universe de Marvel Cinematique, which is how we really should be saying it.
No.
Kaluuya stretches across the billion-dollar goal line with 2018's Black Panther, a film that would go on to gross $1.3 billion before it was all said and done. That's a ton of money for anyone, even if you're Idris Elba and you've had a flick that crossed the $2 billion line. Thanks, Avengers Infinity War. But Elba isn't just relying on the MCU to pump up his stats. His voiceover work sure does come in handy in a roundabout cash made at the multiplex. While Kaluuya was great as the voice of the Ghost of Christmas Present in 2020's A Christmas Carol, there's no box office to show for that, but Elba has a couple $billion-buck earners in Zootopia and Finding Dory, and he got close again with the Jungle Book's $953 million take.
Oh, that is a good one. Oh, yeah, it's one of my favorite.
Idris found more success with other franchises like Fast and Furious, in which his Hobbs and Shaw took in $760 million, and both Pacific Rim and Prometheus earned more than $400 million on this planet. For Kaluuya, he's got one more film that hauled in over $100 million. Do you care to guess what it is?
No.
Nope, it's not Judas and the Black Messiah. That made $7 million. Sicario got close with $84 million. Kick-Ass 2 was solid with $63 million. Okay, this was a really hard question. Did you know that Johnny English Reborn made $164 million?
And a receipt, please.
Rowan Atkinson. We love him here in the United States, but he is beloved in the UK. And I do love me those Johnny English movies. They spoof James Bond, who maybe someday could be played by Idris Elba, or even Daniel Kaluuya.
Yes! Yes!
Elba's not going to need any Bond gadgets to make out with a win in this phase. The might of the MCU is way too strong, but he may not even need Thor Ragnarok's $850 million take. Idris also has Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with $398 million, Star Trek Beyond at $335 million, and American Gangster with well over $200 million. And he's a DC character too. The Suicide Squad grossed $167 million.
I'm an assassin! Why would I share my liabilities?
Damn! I knew he was talented in a bunch of big movies, but if The Rock is franchise Viagra, Idris Elba might be Series Cialis? Get those twin bathtubs ready.
I am way better.
All told, Daniel Kaluuya is off to a sterling start in his box office career. His films have already totaled $2 billion, making for a per-movie average of $254 million. And yet he still has a ways to go to catch his competitor today. Idris Elba films have raked in $12.5 billion, averaging out to a cool $337 million per project. Again, the actors don't get to keep it all, but those two talents are still worth every penny. Idris Elba gets the win in round 1 and goes up 1-0.
This is crazy.
Round 2, tomato meter / audience score. Well, the good thing about the box office round is that the more movies you've appeared in, the more dollars and cents will add to your total. But now, we're looking at the quality of the movies in this section, so the quantity could be what's weighing you down. Luckily for Idris, he's got lots of flicks that have scored very well in the tomato meter, including some of those big talking picture book films.
Oh. Wow.
The Suicide Squad is at 90%, and Thor Ragnarok is at 93%, and those aren't even his best marks in the tomato meter. Nope, those bragging rights go to the 98% earned by Zootopia, and Finding Dory and the Jungle Book are tied up at 94%. Infinity War rests at 85%, Star Trek Beyond is at 86%, and the guy even rewards us for having a Netflix account.
Here you go.
The Harder They Fall is at 88%. Elba also pops into Avengers Age of Ultron, so we'll give him some credit for the 76% it has in the veggie patch.
They see everything.
But remember when I warned y'all that volume could sink you in this round? Let's also not forget that Idris Elba was one of the many famous folks held down by cats.
The Napoleon of crime.
It's way down there giving itself a rotten tongue bath at 19%, and suddenly looks like Daniel Kaluuya has a prime opportunity in this round because he was, let me double check, not in Cats. But Black Panther did feature him, and that's currently at 96%. And that's only his third best outing according to V8. Judas and the Black Messiah is at 97%, and his current high mark has been established by Get Out's 98%. Sicario has a 92%, and Widows is at 91%, so it's looking very promising for young Daniel here. Okay, what is Chat Room? Apparently it's a movie from 2010, and it's at 9%?
I don't want to think about that.
Kick-Ass 2 is at 32%, and Johnny English Reborn is at 38%. Come on, I was just gushing about Rowan Atkinson. That whole franchise is nothing but fresh for this guy.
Shut, sir.
Elba has more skeletons in his closet, including the Unborn at 10% and the Dark Tower at 15%. So how are we looking on the audience score? Well, Sonic 2 is at 96%, and Beasts of No Nation and Zootopia are both firm at 92%. But what this round may come down to is the matchup we've all been craving, Cats versus Johnny English Reborn.
Today we face the monsters that are at our door.
You laugh, but you'd see that fight. Maybe a future Versus episode? Well, according to the audience, the kitty's got claws and purrs its way to 53%. Thank you, Swifties. Meanwhile, Reborn improves somewhat, but is still rotten at 45%. Fortunately for Daniel Kaluuya, his rotten films are few and far between. And although Widows fell all the way down to 62% with the fans, Judas and the Black Messiah continued to please, earning a 95% on this metric.
Come on, man.
When it's all said and done, both actors are tied on the audience score at a fresh 66%. But whereas Elba is knocking on Fresh's door with a 57% tomato meter average, Kaluuya is safely residing in Freshtown with a 67% average per film. For funsies, The Wire is regarded as one of the greatest TV shows ever, and the tomato meter backs that claim up with a 97%. However, Daniel Kaluuya can play in this ballpark too, and his work featured in The Fades, Black Mirror, and Watership Down have all been fresh according to both the tomato meter and the audience. It's enough to get Daniel a W here in round 2, and we're all tied up at 1 apiece.
I
Round 3, iconic moments. Okay, so the argument can be made thus far that Idris Elba is only still in this matchup because he's been a part of some legendary ensembles, like the MCU, and he's been a factor in gigantic franchises like the Fast and Furious. Well, now the rubber really hits the road because this round will be won not by someone who's had a few good scenes in a blockbuster, but by who left the larger impact in a film's most crucial moment. Sometimes here at Versus, we do round 3, focusing on the characters that a person's played instead of the moments they made, but that's not fair here because in Pacific Rim, Idris Elba plays a dude named Stacker Pentecost.
1, don't you ever touch me again. 2, don't you ever touch me again.
That's it. Game over. That's the greatest name in fiction or nonfiction. So while Dr. Pentecost and his name may not be able to help us out here, a few sequences in Pacific Rim do. I'm ready to run through a brick wall and start punching kaiju after hearing Pentecost and his rousing pregame pep talk. It might be the best rah-rah speech since Bill Pullman grabbed the mic in Independence Day.
Not bad.
Elba also gets his most run in the MCU with Thor Ragnarok, becomes frenemies by the end of the Suicide Squad, and is also note perfect trying to navigate Jessica Chastain through legal issues in Molly's Game. But it doesn't always end well for Idris's characters. Stringer, well, he could dominate any scene he's in, like when he and Danette have dinner, but there's a reason why they say, Omar coming.
Yo, so come on, yo, Omar coming, man.
And in American Gangster, he's wonderfully cocky as the new boss in town, but all that bravado quickly goes away during a breakfast held by Frank Lucas. You gonna shoot me, Frank? Don't ask the questions that you don't want the answers to.
You gonna shoot me in front of everybody?
For Daniel Kaluuya, in a relatively short time, he's already shown the acting diversity of an old pro. Witness the Black Panthers versus the Crowns in Judas and the Black Messiah, and the quote, I am a revolutionary riff put the film on every award voting body's radar. Then we arrive at Get Out. The horrific concept of the sunken place lives up to its name, but also look at the extremely awkward and unsettling interaction that Chris has with the few black folks that he can find on the Armitage's property.
A real doggone keeper.
The odd running in the middle of the night, the strain to make a teardrop fall from a maid, and Chris's reaction to these overzealous white people that seem progressive on the outside is spot on. You know, that whole movie is just one long, iconic moment.
I agree.
Yeah.
Queen and Slim showed his potential in a very different role than Get Out. The moment at the gas station, you don't look like a killer, is chill-inducing, and I'd add the rapping scene in Widows for further range, and Kaluuya can also get the most out of smaller appearances, like the scene in Sicario when there's bodies discovered in the walls. He also gets to square off with Killmonger in Black Panther, and it's a good reminder to probably never accept gifts from a guy named Killmonger.
Hey, Auntie.
But Idris Elba also gets to play in the MCU sandbox, and he even gets to blast off into outer space as a sweet villain in Star Trek Beyond. Rock and Roll features the talk sequence, and it's Elba that gets to blow up a ship in Prometheus. And you know what, since that movie came up, here's another friendly reminder to astronauts that it's really not advisable to hook up while in outer space. Control yourself, take a cold shower, glass of Tang, whatever it takes. Just wait until you're back home on Earth. The future of humanity thanks you.
Knock yourself out.
It's the TV world where Idris Elba can start to pull away from Kaluuya. For every 15 million merits moment from Black Mirror that Daniel has, Idris has a bushel of greatness, not just from The Wire, but also shows like Luther and even The Office.
Hey, Jim, can I get a,
Hi.
Hi.
As the VP of the Northeast, his appearance in face-offs with Jim is among the great moments in the history of that beloved program.
Michael handed in his 2-week notice. Did you also hand in your
didn't.
2-week? No, okay.
And as an all-time mic drop, I really want to win this round moment, Idris Elba gets to have a lot of fun with Ghost Rider in Spirit of Vengeance.
May God lead you into the eternal life.
If that isn't an iconic moment, I don't know what is. And it's good enough to push Elba past Kaluuya in round 3, and he reclaims the lead 2-1.
Well done.
Round 4, Tuxedos. Yep, Vera Wang makes those too, I think. We'll check.
Yeah.
And you know what season it is when the James Bond clothing starts making the Hollywood rounds. The award shows come in flying from all angles starting around the holidays, and they culminate with the Super Bowl of Pretend, the Academy Awards. But before we attend that gala and walk the red carpet, let's take a stroll down memory lane.
Sure.
Idris Elba grew up in the 70s and 80s in a working class household in Great Britain, where at 19, He took after his father and worked at an auto plant. He quickly realized that if he could manage that job, acting should be in his wheelhouse as well, so he set off for New York and began hustling around town in search of roles.
You know what we got here? We got an elastic prodigy.
He booked just enough to be able to work legally in the United States and was able to officially move to NYC in 1997. Then he landed The Wire in 2001. Daniel Kaluuya grew up in Camden Town, London, and was told by teachers he needed an outlet for all of his energy. So at 9 years old, he wrote a play about two friends who work at McDonald's, inspired by Keenan and Kel and their Good Burger antics. At age 18, he was hired as one of the youngest TV writers ever for the cult hit Skins. And while most would agree his big break was in Get Out, for Daniel, he credits a performance in the play Sucker Punch at the Royal Court Theater in 2010 that changed everything for him. Both actors share a background that wasn't easy, and one that saw them work hard just to create a few opportunities in the entertainment world in which they would take full advantage. Idris Elba has been nominated for 5 Primetime Emmys, including one year where he was up for both his roles as Luther and for playing Lenny in The Big C. He also has 1 Golden Globe win for playing Luther and has been nominated for multiple BAFTAs as well. But Kaluuya has won a BAFTA to go along with an MTV Movie Award for Get Out.
Don't do that.
And then there's that little Oscar ceremony. Somehow Idris Elba has eluded a nomination to this point, but that could happen any year now. Kaluuya has already made quite a mark at the annual ceremony, as he was nominated for Best Lead Actor for playing Chris in Get Out. He'd watched Gary Oldman accept the statue that year, but a few years later he was back, this time nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Judas and the Black Messiah, and he took home the statue. The Oscar sways me towards Daniel Kaluuya in this round, but Idris Elba has one achievement left to mention. He's won People's Sexiest Blake Shelton of the Year.
I had to discuss that, Alice.
I also think that with time, Daniel Kaluuya could grace the cover of that magazine, maybe sooner rather than later, but he's already done so much in his young career. He's been to the award show mountaintop and is poised to return again with anything that he decides to say yes to. Daniel Kaluuya takes this round, and the match is once again tied 2-2.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Yeah!
And now it's time for the wildcard round, eye for an eye. Okay, well, technically we're not going to be trading eyes or teeth here, but we all know the expression, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Well, in this round, the eyes are going to be one movie from each actor's filmography that best exemplifies their greatness, and we'll couple that with the teeth, which is going to be a TV series or an episode that best shows off their incredible traits.
I can't say nothing to change your minds.
Now, all these resumes, and it all boils down to one movie and a program that could mean the win in the most beloved of shows, Versus. Hosted by me. I'm Mark.
Looking you good out here, huh?
So there will be some suppositions made by the adoring audience right now as to which movies and shows I might pick. I will not be selecting Pacific Rim for reasons that have already been pointed out. Idris plays Stacker Pentecost, and it should be illegal to have a name that cool.
Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
But I also wouldn't pick that for him because, other than the Vince Lombardi pre-game speech, he doesn't have nearly enough to do. But what's even more surprising, I will not be choosing The Wire for Idris Elba on the TV side of things.
What is you thinking, man?
I know, stop yelling. It's the greatest thing in the history of great things. It's inventing the wheel at number 3, discovering fire at 2, and The Wire's number 1.
And there's a thinking man right there.
But for all the legend built around that show, rightfully so, I'm rolling with Luther, because it's the best showcase for the entirety of greatness that is Idris Elba. And his movie, I'm gonna go with The Harder They Fall, because I just saw it again, loved it just the same, and he owns the screen in virtually every scene he's in.
That's right.
The MCU stuff is great, his Black Superman line and Hobbs and Shaw is epic, and American Gangster is one of those rewatchable movies ever, but again, The Harder They Fall just gives us so much Elba. For Kaluuya, I'm tempted to go with a film for which he won an Academy Award, Judas and the Black Messiah, but I think I'll go with my gut and choose Get Out.
Cool.
As for his TV, I can't put one episode of Black Mirror, wonderfully terrifying though it may be, up against the whole run of Luther. So instead, let's do Skins, because it might say more about Daniel's preternatural abilities than any other program he's appeared in. Remember, not only did Daniel play a posh role on Skins at a time when in real life he was middle class, but he was also a writer on the show.
Hello.
That screams volumes about his talent that supersedes merely playing a role. But being the star of a show, the driving force, the reason why we tune in week after week, that's the juice that Idris Elba was bringing to Luther for almost a decade. According to the Rotten Tomatoes critics' consensus, for season 1 of Luther, gritty and ambiguous, Luther is a captivating drama bolstered by a powerhouse performance from Idris Elba in the title role. It's what's not on the page that gets me most about Luther. He can know exactly who a killer he's hunting is, but then the psychological head games start, and that's what separates this show from the pack. He's brilliant, he's got a dark side, he can fall prey to temptation, but it's always an A+ performance from the guy they call Luther.
I'm coming for you.
Daniel Kaluuya does so much with his role as Chris in Get Out, and one of the first jobs he has is to make us feel completely at ease and carefree about his relationship with his girlfriend, played by Allison Williams. Now, we're experiencing the events through Chris, and as we get further entrenched at the Armitage's compound, we're getting more unnerved right alongside our protagonist. His unexplainable run-ins with the staff, the awkward talking points presented by the guests, it's like the audience's heart rate is beating as fast or as slow as Kaluuya's at any given moment. With The Harder They Fall, it's the tale of two crews led by rival outlaws, Nat versus Rufus, played by Idris Elba. Jonathan Majors is Nat. Here's where the Rufus is getting out of prison, so it's high time to seek revenge. What ensues is a Western piece that allows plenty of room to see the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to Rufus, and also to enjoy a rousing performance from Elba and the rest of the cast.
Please. Not this.
If The Harder They Fall is never going to be mentioned in the same breath as Get Out, that's okay. Luther will continue to be regarded as quality television that always had its star engaged, even amidst big-time movie offers flying in, rumors of other blockbuster parts featuring a martini milling around, and shorter seasons limiting the storytelling angles. Skins should always be earmarked as jump-starting the career of one of the best in the business today, but for carrying a show for almost a decade and always being great, even when the character is breaking bad, I'm gonna lean towards experience in this deciding round and give Idris Elba the win, and thus, he takes the match.
You lose.
A versus win might not be quite as exciting as an MTV Golden Popcorn Trophy, but getting a W over a talent like Daniel Kaluuya, that's always a good day. Kaluuya's got plenty of time to continue racking up the plum roles, award nominations, and possibly, maybe, People's Sexiest Man of the Year. I guess I should also point out that I have time to claim that prize as well. Just consider me, editors. I'll resend the headshots if you need.
Wow.
But for today, 'twas really just a celebration of two greats in the world of acting, and it just so happened to go Idris's way this time, mainly because Frank Lucas was nowhere to be found. Avoid that guy at all costs, trust me on this. But you never have to avoid us here on Versus. Hit me up on social media anytime at Mark Ellis Live, and make sure you keep it right here on Rotten Tomatoes for the latest in the world of film, TV, and everything in between. Thanks for watching. I'm Mark Ellis, and no, that name is not as good as Stacker Pentecost.